Welcome to Dialogue. Today's topic is part of an extensive series on the modern dating crisis. We're doing a deep dive today into something we've been calling the impossible portfolio. It's really that point of collision where these idealized, almost hyper-specific visions of a partner just slam right into the messy, complicated reality of being human.
Right.
We've spent the week going through all the sources, and it's fascinating, really examining how our collective desires for what a partner should be have become so inflated, so distorted by modern life.
To the point where it's breaking the whole mechanism.
Exactly. It feels like the system that people use to form connections is just malfunctioning.
It really is, and I think this is a critical conversation for anyone who's trying to navigate that landscape right now. The central insight here, it sounds simple at first.
It does.
Modern dating is defined by a massive checklist. And if you look at any single item on that list, say you want a partner who's ambitious,
Right.
or kind, or financially stable.
Totally reasonable things to want.
Perfectly reasonable. But the problem starts when all of those reasonable desires get bundled together. When you start demanding perfection across every single axis of what it means to be a person, they all merge into this composite human, a person who, frankly, just does not exist. And this relentless hunt for the flawless partner, it's creating this incredible gridlock in the dating market.
And the engine behind it all is what's so wild. The sources we looked at point right to this cultural shift. It's all driven by constant online validation.
Yes, the hyper-curated lifestyle.
The hyper-curated lifestyle, that's the perfect phrase for it. We're seeing this dynamic where someone's public, polished persona, that becomes the baseline. That's what you expect in reality.
The goalposts have completely moved.
They have. People aren't entering the dating pool just looking for a mutual connection anymore or, an acceptance of flaws. They're looking for a partner who validates the high-status digital identity they've spent years building.
And that last point, so crucial to understanding the whole dilemma. The partner selection process, it almost becomes an exercise in personal brand management.
Instead of relational intimacy.
Exactly. If your life is this carefully edited highlight reel, you start to feel entitled to a partner who is also a highlight reel. Because, anything less feels like it would dilute your own perceived status.
Okay, let's really unpack that. The engine of inflation, starting with that source of distortion. I mean, if you think about social media, the access it gives you, it's a massive pool of candidates right at your fingertips. And that empowers everyone to demand more.
But it's an empowerment that comes with a price.
It's that distortion, isn't it? The expectations are rooted in that hyper-curated lifestyle we just mentioned.
They are. Think about the difference. I mean, years ago, how did you judge a potential partner?
By their actual life, their real history, what their friends said about them, their actual job.
Things you could verify. Now, every single person is just swimming in this world where everyone presents this immaculate public portfolio.
The perfect vacation photos, the carefully angled gym selfies.
The effortless career success stories, the pristine apartment decor.
It's everywhere. And when someone spends years curating that kind of public image, they naturally start demanding a partner whose real life matches the presentation of life they see everywhere else.
Or worse, matches the presentation of life they themselves are trying to sell.
Right. And all the normal stuff. The ordinary, the mundane, the struggle, the mess.
The things that make up 99% of a real life.
Those are all edited out. And yet we still expect our partners to tolerate all of our mess while they have to present perfection.
And that completely misses the point of being human, which is, it's always messy. Always.
So what happens?
The minute a potential partner shows some genuine vulnerability or stress or, they fail to live up to that perfect social media ideal.
Like they're between jobs or they don't look exactly like their 5-year-old profile picture.
Exactly. They get discarded immediately. Because the underlying assumption, which is fueled by just endless scrolling through these idealized options, is that perfection must exist out there somewhere.
And if everyone looks perfect online, then that perfect bundle of traits must be the standard, not the exception.
It must be attainable, right? And so this mindset means dating. It stops being about mutual exploration and building a life together.
It becomes what?
A high-stakes filtering process. The goal becomes maximizing the potential social return, not the actual human connection.
that creates a huge sense of entitlement.
Right.
It's like, if I'm willing to spend all these hours filtering and finessing my life into a public masterpiece, why on earth should I settle for someone else's unedited first draft?
And there it is. That's where the core problem really emerges.
Yeah.
The search shifts from finding a suitable, flawed partner to finding that idealized composite human.
The non-existent person.
The completely non-existent person, this composite human, is the central idea. People are seeking this combination of highly specialized traits that, when you actually try to put them into one single person, you get someone who is functionally impossible outside of, I don't know, an Excel spreadsheet.
They're looking for the 100% match, ticking every single box on a list that was never, ever designed to be fully ticked by one person in the real world.
It really reminds me of complex engineering problems.
So.
It's like you're trying to design a fighter jet that also has the cargo capacity of a transport plane
And the fuel efficiency of a bicycle.
and the comfort of a luxury yacht.
Right.
I mean, all of those things are great traits in transportation, but the requirements for peak performance in one area,
Yeah.
they fundamentally cancel out the possibility of peak performance in another.
The physics just don't work. The structural stress alone would tear the whole thing apart.
Precisely. And the real tragedy in all of this is that the search for that composite, that perfect fighter jet yacht, it blinds people to what is perfectly good enough.
Or even exceptional, but still human.
Exactly. They'll meet partners who have 80 or 90% of their desired qualities. People who are stable, attractive, mature, they share deep values. But because that person fails to meet that final, often contradictory 10%,
Maybe they don't have a six-pack. Or they aren't earning some impossible six-figure salary.
you're dismissed. Just like that. All in the rush to find that elusive 100%. And the result is just this profound dissatisfaction, even when you're faced with objectively high-quality people.
So that's the gridlock.
That's the gridlock. People are rejecting good, viable partners because they're comparing them to a fictional aggregated highlight reel. The hunt for the composite actively prevents you from accepting the complete, flawed, actual human who's standing right in front of you.
It really sets the stage for a breakdown of these expectations. So let's shift gears and break down those impossible demands, starting with what's being placed on men. When we dissect the expectations for male partners, the source material just lays out this exhaustive checklist. And we have to be clear. Individually, none of these traits are, unreasonable on their own.
Not at all.
We're talking about demands for him to be financially stable, ambitious, emotionally intelligent, loyal, confident, masculine, fit, mature, fun, and deeply attentive.
It's a long list.
It sounds like the perfect human being. But the portfolio requires peak performance across every major life domain: professional, emotional, physical, social.
The sheer volume of it is the first problem. And then you have the inherent conflicts between those traits.
Right.
Let's just take the ones that require high external output, ambitious and financially stable,
Okay.
to achieve real, high-level success in today's economy. To become an executive or a successful entrepreneur, it often requires a singular focus, an immense time commitment, a high tolerance for stress.
On sacrificing other things.
Frequently, yes. Sacrificing immediate emotional availability for that long-term goal, and that very intensity, the thing that created the professional success that's so desired.
Is the same thing that gets penalized.
It directly clashes with the demand to be deeply attentive and fun and emotionally intelligent on a dime, especially after a 12-hour workday. The successful man is often punished in the dating world for the very focus that made him successful in the first place.
That contradiction is so clear, but the really impossible part comes from the paradoxes. Let's start with that first one. He must be capable of leading, but also be collaborative. Leadership, especially in a relationship context, it means being decisive, having direction, conviction, taking responsibility. It's about initiating the plan.
And collaboration is, well, it's a completely different set of behaviors. It's about listening, negotiating, compromising, prioritizing shared needs.
Sometimes just yielding control for the sake of harmony.
Right. And these two roles require fundamentally opposing modes of operation. So if a man consistently leads, he very quickly risks being called domineering or rigid.
Or that he doesn't value his partner's input.
But if he's too collaborative, if he's constantly deferring to avoid any conflict, then he's seen as passive or weak. not the strong leader that was on the checklist.
It's a trap.
It's a huge trap. And the demand isn't for a healthy balance over time. It's for this instantaneous, exhausting behavioral switch.
Give me an example.
Okay, so he has to initiate the entire vacation plan to show leadership. But then he has to immediately defer to every single one of her preferences about the itinerary or where you eat to show he's collaborative. If he fails to plan, he's passive. If he plans but then fails to yield on some minor point,
Yeah.
he's domineering. This constant psychological shapeshifting is just not sustainable.
Let's move to the second big contradiction, and this one might be the most intense. The demand that he must be strong but vulnerable. Strength here is way more than physical. It's psychological resilience. It means handling a crisis, being the steady one, shielding the relationship from stress.
Being the rock.
Being the rock, exactly, the reliable foundation. But vulnerability demands the complete opposite. It's the ability to instantly drop that shield, express fear, admit you have needs, reveal your emotional wounds.
And here's where the trap is sprung. The partner wants that strength when the world gets chaotic. There's a layoff, a financial scare. They want him to stand firm. But they also demand instant, deep emotional access as a form of intimacy.
But those two things are at odds.
They are. The critical point is this. The moment he reveals a genuine weakness, and I don't mean a performative, safe vulnerability like, I had a stressful day at work.
You mean a real, painful emotional need?
Yes. The moment he does that, he risks undermining the very perception of strength that his partner relies on. The sources suggest that many people demand vulnerability as proof of emotional depth. But if that vulnerability reveals actual dependency or weakness, it is often, unconsciously or consciously, punished.
So trying to be externally competent while also being instantly emotionally open is a paradox.
And it leads many men to become deeply guarded, which is then ironically criticized as being emotionally unavailable.
Absolutely exhausting. Okay, let's zoom in on the material side of the portfolio, which fuels these conflicts. The financial requirement. He must earn enough to maintain her preferred lifestyle.
This one is huge.
This goes way beyond just financial stability. In the context of that hyper-curated life we talked about, this often means supporting a very specific pre-established standard of living.
A standard that includes luxury markers.
Frequent international travel, high-end restaurants, a certain type of home, specific brands, and sometimes it even means taking on existing debt.
This places a tremendous, disproportionate burden on one partner. It fundamentally changes the dynamic of the relationship. And if the desired lifestyle is high, the required income is exponential.
Which it requires.
Taking huge career risks, prioritizing late nights, weekends, operating under chronic stress.
Now, let's connect this back to the behavioral demands.
Okay. Think about the personality type you need to be to achieve that level of success in your prime working years. You're often highly focused, maybe a little emotionally detached because of the pressure cooker environment you're in.
And you're definitely time poor.
Almost certainly. And those very behaviors directly clash with the demands for him to be fun, attentive, and available. The lifestyle maintenance mandate is a direct contradiction generator. It requires a man to be fully dedicated to external success, which makes him distant, while also being fully dedicated to the relationship, which would compromise that success.
And that leads to the final demand, which is for emotional perfection. He must be fully healed, unproblematic, and emotionally available.
This is the ultimate impossibility. It completely ignores the core truth of being human.
Yeah.
We are all inherently flawed. We're all wounded. We're all in a constant state of growth. We carry baggage. We have trauma.
But the expectation is for a fully finished product.
Exactly. A partner who has already done all their personal growth, eliminated all their psychological baggage, and operates at perfect emotional equilibrium 24/7.
It views potential partners as, what, risks to be managed.
Or problems to be solved. If a man expresses current anxiety or struggle, he's often seen as not healed and therefore not worthy of commitment. This mindset fails to recognize that a successful relationship isn't about finding two perfect people who need nothing from each other.
It's about two imperfect people willing to grow together.
And rely on mutual support. That's the whole point.
When you demand a partner who doesn't need any emotional support, you create a dynamic where the relationship just healed. It lacks true intimacy. It lacks resilience.
Because intimacy is built through that mutual reliance, through seeing each other's imperfections. Demanding a fully formed emotional state, it effectively prevents the mutual risk-taking you need to build a real sustainable connection.
His imperfections aren't seen as human. They're seen as product flaws.
signaling a quick dismissal in the hunt for the flawless composite.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's analyze the expectations placed on women, which create an equally complex and contradictory portfolio. We're calling it the modern traditionalist.
It's an incredible tightrope walk.
It really is. It's this balance between autonomy and meeting very specific aesthetic and behavioral expectations all at the same time. The baseline checklist men often have for female partners is just as demanding.
Hmm.
She has to be feminine, attractive, low drama, loyal, respectful, fit, nurturing, emotionally supportive, have a low body count, and somehow be modern and traditional at the same time.
When you lay it out like that.
You see the issue. You're demanding a woman who can succeed brilliantly in a 21st century career, but who operates internally with the priorities of a highly traditional domestic role.
That requires a huge amount of psychological maneuvering.
Yeah.
The core dilemma really lies in managing that spectrum of independence. Sources really highlight one contradiction. She must be independent, but not domineering.
Let's break that down.
Well, independence is valued on the surface. It signals competence, security, ambition. A financially independent woman is seen as a high-value partner who reduces financial pressure on the man.
What?
But the very behaviors required to achieve that independence, assertiveness, decisiveness, strong professional boundaries, a non-deferential attitude, those can be rapidly penalized within the romantic dynamic.
As soon as they clash with the partner's expectations.
Exactly. So independence is desired as a status symbol, a mark of competence on paper. But it's often rejected as a behavioral reality when it challenges the relationship structure or the male partner's sense of authority.
So if her independence means she feels comfortable asserting a different viewpoint or taking initiative that he feels undermines his leadership, she's suddenly domineering.
Or too much.
Hmm.
The result is she's required to be professionally assertive all day, but then flip that switch completely off the second she walks in the door. It's a massive psychological burden.
And this leads right into the next paradox. Confident, but not confrontational.
Another impossible line to walk.
Confidence is highly attractive. It suggests self-worth, resilience. But what happens to that confidence when there's a real disagreement about shared priorities or values, or when she just needs to stand up for her own needs?
Well, a truly confident person uses that assurance to engage in healthy disagreement. Sometimes high-stakes disagreement. They hold their ground, they challenge assumptions. That's functional confidence.
But in the context of this impossible portfolio,
That challenge is often interpreted as an attack on harmony. If her confidence translates into behavior that requires intense emotional engagement, or if it just upsets the partner's comfort zone, it's immediately penalized as confrontational.
or worse, drama.
Right, the drama label. The expectation is for a woman who projects the aesthetic of confidence, but maintains behavioral compliance, who minimizes friction at all costs.
The level of control required over her presentation is just staggering. And that brings us to the whole modern versus traditional expectation.
This is a huge one.
She's required to be modern, professionally engaged, intellectually stimulating, ambitious. But at the same time, she has to embody traditional traits.
Dedicated to domestic harmony, highly nurturing, emotionally supportive.
And prioritizing the partnership's comfort above all else.
It's a devastating time allocation problem. You're demanding a woman who has the drive and focus to be a highly successful professional, a modern necessity, but also has the emotional and domestic bandwidth to manage the relationship and home like a traditionalist.
There aren't enough hours in the day. And finally, let's touch on that non-negotiable trait. Emotionally supportive, coupled with low drama.
This brings us back to the asymmetry of emotional labor.
It does. When a woman is universally demanded to be emotionally supportive, it means she is expected to be the primary shock absorber for her partner's stress, the provider of comfort, the stabilizer of the relationship's emotional temperature.
The therapist role.
Yes, and the low drama mandate then means that while she's performing this difficult role, she has to completely minimize or suppress her own complex emotional needs.
So if she's stressed from her high-achieving modern career, or if she tries to process a disagreement by expressing complex feelings,
It's immediately reframed as drama.
or a failure of her primary nurturing duty. Essentially, she is asked to provide care and stability, but she must never require significant care herself. This imbalance ensures the relationship is only functional when her emotional needs are completely sublimated to his. It's a recipe for burnout.
We've laid out the contradictions on both sides. Now we get to the synthesis of it all, the ultimate fantasy portfolio.
The final boss.
The final boss, yes. This is the six-dimensional partner that people are unconsciously looking for, pulling traits from every aspirational thing they consume. It really shows the absurdity of the standard.
It does.
This portfolio demands absolute excellence across 6 highly specialized, often unrelated domains. Let's just list them, because this is the core of the gridlock.
Yeah.
1, the emotional intelligence of a therapist. 2, the beauty of a model. 3, the sexual expertise of a porn star. 4, the financial ambition of an entrepreneur. 5, the social grace of a diplomat. And 6, the unwavering loyalty of a saint.
We really need to analyze the functional conflict built right into this fantasy. Each of these 6 roles, therapist, model, entrepreneur, diplomat, is a full-time, highly specialized job.
Right.
A person who achieves the emotional fluency of a therapist, for example, they typically prioritize careful listening, boundaries, internal management, but juxtapose that with the singular focus and risk-taking demanded by the financial ambition of an entrepreneur.
Completely different skill sets.
Different energies that fundamentally clash.
Sure.
That role demands aggression, massive time commitment, emotional compartmentalization. Then consider the social grace of a diplomat. They prioritize consensus, careful speech, harmony, which is in direct conflict with the risk tolerance and decisive aggressive action of an entrepreneur.
And the conflict between the model and the saint is just as stark.
It is. The demand for the beauty of a model requires this immense focus on external physical maintenance, on public presentation, often prioritizing external validation. That energy can conflict with the deep, internal, self-effacing focus of the unwavering loyalty of a saint, which prioritizes devotion and internal morality over external aesthetics.
The analysis is pretty clear then.
It's crystal clear. Demanding excellence across 6 specialized, competing domains guarantees failure, because no single human has these traits simultaneously and flawlessly. People are expecting a partner who can seamlessly switch between being a CEO, a counselor, a celebrity, and a loyal servant, all without any personal cost or visible effort.
So this portfolio is pure fantasy.
Pure fantasy derived from aggregation. People take the best trait from a celebrity, the best trait from a friend's curated relationship on Instagram, the best trait from a movie character, and they bundle them all together into a single mandatory checklist for a real human being.
And the tragic, practical outcome of this search is that pervasive blindness to good enough.
Yes. When you set the bar at a 6-dimensional, perfect portfolio, anything short of 100% isn't viewed as high quality. It's viewed as functionally incomplete and therefore disposable.
Think about the person who hits 5 out of 6 of these qualities. A genuinely attractive, successful, incredibly loyal, socially graceful person who maybe lacks the extreme emotional fluency of a full-time therapist.
In today's environment, that partner is dismissed
Why?
because they're being measured against the mythical composite who can effortlessly provide everything all the time.
Yeah.
This comparison against the fantasy aggregate ensures chronic dissatisfaction.
So when you're comparing a real, fallible person who shows up tired and stressed and sometimes needs support against the curated perfection of an online ideal.
Reality will always feel insufficient. It will always be a disappointment. This cycle of discarding genuine potential for the elusive promise of perfection. It's driven by the belief that settling for anything less than 100% is a personal failure in a market of infinite choice.
And that is the definition of gridlock.
Rejecting viable pathways, because the fictional destination seems, just for a moment, within reach.
This brings the discussion right back to you, the listener. What stands out to you about the traits you find yourself prioritizing? When you're evaluating a new connection, are you looking for a human being, a fallible, growing partner who can meet you 80% of the way and grow the rest?
Or are you seeking a curated checklist? A portfolio designed to validate the high-status life you want to project.
That distinction between wanting a person who makes you happy versus wanting a person who looks good on paper, that's the critical question. And it needs some genuine, ruthless self-reflection.
So to summarize the core message of this deep dive, the modern dating crisis is fundamentally less about a lack of suitable available partners and far more about an internally imposed standard.
A standard derived from fantasy.
Exactly. Fueled by digital perfection and constructed through these collective contradictory demands that make reality insufficient by definition. The only viable path forward is critical thinking about your own personal expectations and recognizing that partnership is defined by mutual growth and support, not the flawless execution of an impossible portfolio.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to consider, building on our analysis of that fully healed partner. Given that true deep connection and lasting vulnerability requires accepting imperfection and mutual risk-taking, how does the current search for an unproblematic, fully formed partner fundamentally prevent the necessary mutual exposure and emotional messiness that actually builds a truly deep and lasting connection? If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, let us know in the comments what really stood out to you in this conversation, and if there's any related topic or new topic that you would like covered in a future video.